The cold metal walls of Research Station Omega hummed with alien technology. Dr. Taemin Park walked down the white corridor, his footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. He carried a datapad in his hands, but his mind was somewhere else. Today was the day they would decide what to do with Subject 17. The Valtherian Empire had built this station to study life forms from across the galaxy. They wanted to understand what made each species special. The tall, blue-skinned Valtherians believed that every living thing had a soul. They could measure souls with their machines. A strong soul meant you were important. A weak soul meant you were not. Taemin reached the observation deck and looked through the thick glass window. Inside the test chamber sat a young girl who looked about 10 years old. Her name was Nari, though the Valtherians only called her Subject 17. She had long black hair and dark eyes that seemed too old for her face. She was part human and part Valtherian, created in the labs 3 years ago. Nari sat on the floor, building something with small metal blocks. Her fingers moved quickly as she put the pieces together. Taemin watched as she created a perfect model of the space station. She had never seen the outside of the building, but somehow she knew exactly how it looked. Still watching the defective one, Dr. Park, Taemin turned around. Commander Velthar stood behind him. The Valtherian was over 7 feet tall with bright blue skin and silver eyes. His voice was cold and mechanical, like the station itself. "She is not defective," Taemin said quietly. "She is different." Velthar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Different, yes, very different. She has no soul signature at all. Our machines show nothing, zero. She should not even be alive." Taemin looked back at Nari. She had finished building her model and was now taking it apart only to build it again in a new way. Her face showed deep concentration. "The other subjects all show proper soul readings," Velthar continued. "Subject 12 has a soul strength of 47 units. Subject 9 shows 62 units, but this one, nothing. She is hollow inside." "Maybe your machines are wrong," Taemin suggested. Velthar's silver eyes grew cold. "Our soul scanners have never been wrong in 3,000 years. This creature is a mistake, a failure. Tomorrow we will dispose of her and move on to more promising subjects." Taemin felt his heart stop. "Dispose of her? You mean termination?" "Yes. The experiment has failed. We cannot learn anything from a being without a soul." After Velthar left, Taemin stayed at the window. He watched Nari continue her building game. She seemed happy, even though she lived alone in a small room with no friends and no family. Sometimes she would look up at the window and wave at him. She always smiled when she saw him. Dr. Hyejin walked up beside him. She was the only other human on the station, working as a medical officer. Her face looked worried. "I heard what Velthar said," she whispered. "They really plan to kill her tomorrow." "She does not deserve this," Taemin said. "Look at her, Hyejin. Look how smart she is. Look how she builds things that should be impossible for someone her age." Hyejin nodded. "I have been watching her, too. She is special, but not in the way the Valtherians think." "What do you mean?" "Yesterday I ran some tests on her blood. Her brain activity is unlike anything I have ever seen. She thinks in ways that are completely different from both humans and Valtherians. When I asked her simple math questions, she gave me answers that our computers took minutes to calculate." Taemin pressed his hand against the glass. Inside the room, Nari looked up and saw him. She smiled and held up her latest creation. It was a small flower made from metal pieces. "She made that for you," Hyejin said softly. "She told me yesterday that she wanted to give you something pretty, because you are always kind to her." "The Valtherians are wrong about souls," Taemin said. "If they cannot measure her soul, maybe it means her soul is too big for their machines to understand." That night, Taemin could not sleep. He walked through the empty corridors of the station, thinking about Nari. He remembered the first time he saw her, when she was just a small child in a glass tube. The Valtherian scientists had been so excited about their new hybrid experiment. They thought she would be the perfect combination of human creativity and Valtherian logic. But as she grew, Their excitement turned to disappointment. She did not act like they expected. She asked too many questions. She built things that had no practical purpose. She cried when she saw other test subjects in pain. The Valtherians did not understand these behaviors. Worst of all, their soul scanners showed nothing when they tested her. According to their most advanced technology, she was just an empty shell walking around. Tae-min knew better. He had spent hours talking with Nari through the intercom system. She was curious about everything. She wanted to know about stars and planets and other people. She asked him about his childhood on Earth and listened carefully to every story he told. She was not empty. She was full of life and wonder and hope. The next morning came too quickly. Tae-min arrived at the lab early, hoping to find some way to save Nari, but Velthar was already there with 2 guards. Dr. Park. Perfect timing. You can observe the termination procedure. Perhaps you will learn something useful about failed experiments. Through the window, Tae-min could see Nari in her room. She was sitting on her bed, holding the metal flower she had made. She did not know what was about to happen. Wait, Tae-min said. Give me 1 more day with her. Let me run some final tests. No, Velthar replied. We have wasted enough time on this mistake. The termination will begin in 1 hour. Tae-min watched as the guards prepared to enter Nari's room. His hands shook as he realized he was about to watch an innocent child die, just because some machine could not measure her worth. That was when he made a decision that would change everything. He was not going to let them kill his daughter. Dr. Tae-min Park ran through the corridors of the space station. His heart was beating fast. He had 30 minutes before the guards would come for Nari. 30 minutes to save the life of a girl who had become like a daughter to him. He found Dr. Hyojin in the medical bay, checking supplies in a storage cabinet. When she saw his face, she knew something was wrong. What happened? She asked. They are going to kill her in 30 minutes, Tae-min said, breathing hard. We have to do something. Hyojin closed the cabinet door and looked around to make sure. No one was listening. What do you want to do? We cannot fight the Valtherians, they are too strong. We can save her, Tae-min said. But I need your help. Hyojin was quiet for a moment. She had worked with the Valtherians for 2 years. She knew what happened to people who went against their orders, but she also knew that Nari was innocent. Tell me your plan, she said. Tae-min pulled out his data pad and showed her the station layout. During the termination procedure, they will move her to the disposal chamber. The hallway passes by the medical bay. If we can create a medical emergency, we can get her out during the confusion. And then what? Where do we go? This is a space station. We cannot just walk outside. My friend Captain Boram has a cargo ship docked at Bay 7. She owes me a favor from when I helped her sick crew member last year. If we can get Nari to her ship, Boram will take us away from here. Hyojin thought about it. The plan was dangerous, but it might work. How do we fake a medical emergency? You are the medical officer. You know how to make the alarms go off. During the emergency, I will grab Nari and we run to Bay 7. What about after we escape? The Valtherians will hunt us. They do not forget. Tae-min had thought about this too. I have a friend on New Busan Colony. Jin Woo was my student before he left to work there. He can help us hide. Hyojin nodded slowly. Okay. But we have to be very careful. If they catch us, they will not just kill Nari. They will kill us too. 20 minutes later, Tae-min stood outside Nari's room. Through the small window, he could see her sitting on her bed. She was still holding the metal flower she had made for him. She looked so small and alone. The guards came exactly on time. They were tall Valtherian soldiers with blue skin and silver armor. They did not speak as they opened the door to Nari's room. Time to go, Subject 17, one of them said. Nari looked confused. Go where? Is Dr. Park coming with me? No questions. Move. Nari stood up slowly. She still held her metal flower. As they walked her out of the room, she looked around, trying to see Tae-min. But he was hiding around the corner, waiting for the right moment. The guards walked Nari down the long, corridor toward the disposal chamber. Taemin followed them quietly, staying in the shadows. His hands were shaking. Everything had to happen perfectly, or they would all die. When they reached the medical bay, Hyejin was ready. She had prepared a chemical reaction that would create lots of smoke and set off all the fire alarms. The moment the guards walked past her door, she started the reaction. Immediately, loud alarms began ringing throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Smoke poured out of the medical bay. "Emergency in medical section," a voice announced over the speakers. "All personnel report to emergency stations." The guards stopped walking. They looked confused. This was not part of their orders. "Should we continue with the disposal?" one guard asked the other. "Protocol says all emergencies take priority," the second guard replied. "We must secure the subject and help with the emergency." This was exactly what Taemin had hoped for. As the guards tried to decide what to do, he stepped out of the shadows. "Guards!" he called out. "Dr. Hyejin needs help in the medical bay. There has been an explosion." The guards looked at him, then at each other. They were trained to follow orders, but they were also trained to help during emergencies. "Take the subject back to her room," the first guard told the second. "I will help with the medical emergency." As one guard ran toward the medical bay, the other guard started walking Nari back to her room. This was Taemin's chance. He followed them quietly. When they reached a dark section of the corridor, he called out, "Excuse me, guard. Commander Velthar wants to see you immediately." The guard stopped and turned around. "Now? What about the subject?" "I will watch her," Taemin said. "The commander said it was very important." The guard looked uncertain, but he had been trained to obey orders from the research staff. He handed Nari over to Taemin and hurried away to find Commander Velthar. Taemin looked down at Nari. She was staring up at him with wide, frightened eyes. "Dr. Park," she said quietly. "What is happening? Why are the alarms ringing?" "We have to go, Nari," he said, taking her hand. "Right now." "Go where?" "Away from here, to a safe place." Nari did not ask any more questions. She trusted Taemin completely. She held his hand tightly as they ran through the corridors toward the docking bay. The station was full of confusion. Valtharian workers ran back and forth trying to deal with the emergency. No one paid attention to a human scientist and a young girl running through the hallways. They reached Docking Bay 7, just as Captain Boram was preparing to leave. She was a middle-aged human woman with short gray hair and kind eyes. When she saw Taemin running toward her ship with Nari, she knew something serious was happening. "Taemin?" she called out. "What is going on?" "Boram, I need that favor," he said, breathing hard. "We need to leave this station right now." Boram looked at Nari, then back at Taemin. She had known him for 5 years. He was not the kind of person who caused trouble without a good reason. "Get on the ship," she said. Quickly, as they climbed aboard Boram's cargo ship, Taemin heard voices in the corridor behind them. The guards had discovered that Nari was missing. Soon they would search the entire station. "Where are we going?" Boram asked as she started the ship's engines. "New Busan colony," Taemin said. "And we need to leave before they lock down the station." Boram nodded and pressed buttons on her control panel. The ship lifted off from the docking bay just as Valtharian security forces arrived. As they flew away from the station, Nari pressed her face against a small window. She watched the only home she had ever known get smaller and smaller, until it was just a tiny dot of light. "Dr. Park," she said softly. "Are we ever going back?" Taemin put his arm around her shoulders. "No, Nari. We are going to find a new home, a place where you will be safe. Will you stay with me?" Taemin smiled and hugged her close. "Always. I promise." For the first time in her life, Nari was free. But freedom was just the beginning of their journey. 3 years had passed since Nari arrived at New Busan Colony. The small human settlement sat on the edge of known space, far from both Earth and the Valtharian Empire. It was a good place to hide, but it was also a hard place to live. Nari had grown taller during those 3 years. She now looked like a 16-year-old girl, though she was technically only 6 years old. Her hybrid nature made her age differently than normal humans. She was smart and quick to learn, but she still struggled with questions about who she was and where she belonged. Dr. Taemin Park had become her father in every way that mattered. He taught her about human history, science, and culture. He showed her how to read and write in both Korean and English. Most importantly, he taught her that her worth did not depend on what any machine could measure. The colony had not been easy to convince at first. When Administrator Chen saw Nari step off Captain Boram's ship, his face had filled with worry. A half-alien child was not something the small colony was prepared to handle. She could be dangerous, Chen had said. We don't know what the Valtharians put in her. But Taemin had convinced him to give them a chance. He agreed to work in the colony's research lab, using his skills to help improve their farming and water systems. In return, Chen allowed them to stay and gave them a small house on the edge of town. Now Nari walked through the colony's main street, carrying a basket of vegetables from their garden. The morning sun was bright, and the air smelled like growing plants and fresh earth. It was so different from the cold metal corridors of the space station where she had been born. "Good morning, Nari," called out Mrs. Kim from her shop doorway. "How is your father today?" "He is well, thank you," Nari replied, with a smile. "He is working on the new water filter system." Mrs. Kim nodded. She had been one of the first colonists to accept Nari as part of their community. "Tell him the vegetables from your garden are the best we have ever had. Whatever he is doing the soil is working." Nari continued walking until she reached the workshop where her friend Minho was working. He was a year older than her and had been born on the colony. When she first arrived, he had been curious about her strange appearance, but he had never been mean to her like some of the other children. "Nari," Minho called out when he saw her. "Come look at this." She walked over to where he was standing beside a broken piece of farming equipment. The machine was supposed to plant seeds automatically, but it had stopped working a week ago. "My father says it cannot be fixed," Minho explained. "The parts are too old and we cannot get new ones from Earth. But I thought maybe you could look at it." Nari set down her basket and examined the machine. She ran her hands over its surface, feeling the vibrations of the broken parts inside. This was something she had always been able to do, even as a small child. She could understand how machines worked just by touching them. "The problem is not the old parts," she said after a moment. "The problem is that the parts are fighting each other. The timing is wrong." "Fighting each other?" Minho looked confused. "How can machine parts fight?" Nari opened the machine's control panel and looked at the wires inside. She could see the problem clearly, though she could not explain how she knew. "This wire should connect to that one, not this one, and this timing mechanism needs to be adjusted by exactly 3 seconds." She worked on the machine for 20 minutes, her fingers moving quickly and surely. Minho watched in amazement as she fixed problems that the colony's best engineers could not understand. When she finished, the machine hummed to life perfectly. It planted seeds in neat rows, exactly as it was supposed to do. "How did you do that?" Minho asked. Nari shrugged. "I just listened to what the machine wanted to tell me." That afternoon, Dr. Sunja came to visit Tai Min at their house. She was the colony's chief scientist and had been studying Nari from a distance for 2 years. She was fascinated by the girl's unusual abilities. "I watched her fix the planting machine today," Sunja told Taiman as they sat in his small kitchen. "She solved a problem that our best engineers gave up on. How does she do it?" Taiman poured tea for both of them. "I have been wondering Same thing. She can understand technology in ways that seem impossible. Yesterday, she fixed our communication system by touching it for 5 minutes." "It is not just technology," Sunja said. "I have been watching her interact with the colony's computer systems. She can process information faster than our best computers, and she never makes mistakes." Through the window, they could see Nari in the garden, talking quietly to Minho. She was showing him how to tell which plants needed more water just by looking at their leaves. "She is special," Taemin said. "But she's also troubled. She still believes what the Valtharians told her about having no soul." "Maybe she doesn't have a soul in the way the Valtharians understand it," Sunja suggested. "Maybe she has something completely different." Their conversation was interrupted by a loud noise outside. A large ship was landing at the colony's spaceport. It was not one of their regular supply ships. This ship was sleek and silver with markings that made Taemin's blood run cold. It was a Valtherian ship. Elder Sang-wook, the colony's oldest resident, came running to their house. His face was pale with worry. "Taemin," he said, breathing hard. "Aliens have landed at the spaceport. They are asking about a missing experiment. They say they are looking for stolen property." Taemin felt his heart stop. After 3 years of peace, the Valtherians had found them. "Where is Nari?" he asked. "Still in the garden with Minho," Sunja replied. "They have not seen the ship yet." Taemin ran outside and called to Nari. She looked up from the plants she was examining and saw the fear in his face. She had learned to read human expressions very well during her time on the colony. "What is wrong?" she asked, walking quickly toward him. "We have visitors," he said carefully. "Valtherian visitors." Nari's face went pale. She had nightmares sometimes about the cold laboratory where she was born. She had hoped never to see another Valtherian again. "Are they here for me?" she asked quietly. Before Taemin could answer, 3 tall figures in silver uniforms walked into their street. The leader was a Valtherian with bright blue skin and cold silver eyes. Behind him walked 2 guards carrying advanced weapons. "I am Agent Kethvor of the Valtherian Empire," the leader announced in a loud voice. "We are searching for stolen property, a hybrid experiment that was illegally removed from Research Station Omega 3 years ago." The colonists gathered in the street, looking nervous. They had heard stories about the Valtherian Empire, but most of them had never seen one of the aliens in person. Administrator Chen stepped forward. "This is a peaceful human colony. We have no stolen property here." Agent Kethvor looked around at the gathered humans. His eyes stopped when he saw Nari standing beside Taemin. "There," he said, pointing at her. "Subject 17. You will return her to us immediately." "She is not property," Taemin said, stepping in front of Nari. "She is my daughter." Agent Kethvor made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your daughter? Humans cannot have Valtherian daughters. She is a failed experiment that belongs to the Empire. She belongs to no one but herself," Taemin replied firmly. The tension in the street grew thick. The colonists looked back and forth between the Valtherians and their neighbors. They had to decide whether to protect Nari or give her up to save themselves. Elder Sang-wook stepped forward. His old voice was steady and strong. "This girl has lived among us for 3 years," he said. "She has helped us grow food and fix our machines. She has never hurt anyone. We will not give her to you." Other colonists began to nod and step forward. Mrs. Kim moved to stand beside Nari. Minho took her hand and squeezed it gently. Agent Kethvor's silver eyes grew cold. "Then you have chosen to defy the Valtherian Empire. That is a very dangerous choice." As the alien agent spoke those words, Nari felt something stirring inside her. It was a feeling she had never experienced before. It was like electricity running through her veins, but warmer, stronger. For the first time in her life, she was not afraid. She was angry. The air in the colony street felt heavy with danger. Agent Kethvor stood with his 2 guards, their silver weapons gleaming in the afternoon sun. The human colonists formed a protective circle around Nari, but everyone knew they could not fight the advanced Valtherian technology. Nari stepped forward, away from the protection of her neighbors. The strange feeling inside her was growing stronger. It felt like power flowing through her blood. "I will go with you," she said quietly. "No." Taemin grabbed her arm. "You are not property. You are my daughter." Agent Kethvor smiled coldly. "The creature has more sense than you humans. She knows where she belongs." But Nari was not planning to surrender. As she walked toward the Valtherians, the power inside her continued to grow. She could feel every electronic device in the colony. The communication systems, the water pumps, the power generators, they all spoke to her in voices only she could hear. "Wait," she said, stopping just a few feet from Agent Kethvor. "Before I go with you, I want to know something. Why do you..." Call me a failure? The Valtherian agent looked annoyed. You have no soul signature, you are empty, worthless. But I can do things that others cannot do, Nari said. I can fix machines that your best engineers cannot repair. I can solve problems that your computers take hours to calculate. How is that worthless? Tricks, Kethvor replied. Meaningless tricks from a defective experiment. That was when something inside Nari snapped. The power that had been building suddenly exploded outward. Every electronic device in the colony began to flash and hum. The streetlights turned on, even though it was daytime. The water pump started working at double speed. The Valtherian weapons in the guards' hands began to spark and smoke. Within seconds, they became useless pieces of metal. What is happening? One of the guards asked in panic. Nari looked at her hands. Blue energy was flowing around her fingers like electricity, but it did not hurt. It felt natural, like breathing. I am not broken, she said, her voice stronger than before. I am not a failure. I am something you do not understand. Agent Kethvor pulled out a small device and pointed it at Nari. It was a soul scanner, the same type of machine that had declared her soulless 6 years ago. Impossible, he whispered, staring at the device's screen. The readings are off the scale. This cannot be right. Dr. Sunja had been watching everything from her position near the crowd. As a scientist, she understood what was happening better than anyone else. The scanner is working perfectly, she called out. You just never knew how to read the results. Kethvor spun around to face her. What do you mean, human? Sunja stepped forward, no longer afraid. Your machines measure soul, energy on a specific frequency range. But what if some souls operate on completely different frequencies? What if Nari's soul is so advanced that your primitive scanners cannot detect it? That is impossible, Kethvor said, but his voice was less certain now. Is it? Sunja asked. Look around you. She is controlling every electronic system in this colony with her mind. She can interface with technology in ways that should be impossible. Maybe the question is not whether she has a soul, but whether your understanding of souls is too limited. As if to prove Sunja's point, Nari raised her hand toward the Valtherian ship at the spaceport. Even from several blocks away, they could hear the ship's engines shutting down. Its lights went dark. Your ship will not work until I allow it to work, Nari said calmly. Your weapons are useless. Your communication devices cannot call for help. You are trapped here until I decide to let you go. Agent Kethvor looked around at the colonists who were no longer afraid of him. His advanced technology had been defeated by a girl he had called worthless. Even if what you say is true, he said to Sunja, she is still Valtherian property. She was created in our laboratories. She was born in your laboratories, Taemin corrected, stepping beside his daughter. But she was not created by you. She created herself. Minho, who had been quiet during the confrontation, suddenly spoke up. Nari, remember last month when the colony's main computer crashed? You fixed it in minutes. You said the computer was scared and lonely. How did you know that? Nari looked at her friend. I could feel what it was feeling. Machines have emotions too, but most people cannot sense them. And remember when you predicted the storm 3 days before our weather sensors detected it? Added Mrs. Kim. You said the planet was trying to warn us. Elder Sangwook nodded slowly. She talks to our farming equipment like it is alive, and somehow, it listens to her. Our crops grow better because the machines work harder for her. Doctor. Sunja pulled out her own scanner and pointed it at Nari. Look at this, she said, showing the results to everyone. On human frequency ranges, she shows normal readings. On Valtherian frequencies, she shows nothing. But if I adjust the scanner to look at quantum frequencies that we have never studied before, the scanner's screen filled with colors and patterns that nobody had ever seen before. The readings were so complex that the machine could barely display them. She does not lack a soul, Sunja announced. She has a soul that operates on levels we never knew existed. She is not a failed hybrid. She is an evolutionary leap forward. Agent Kethvor stared at the scanner readings. His silver eyes showed something that looked like fear. If this is true, he said slowly, then she is too dangerous to exist. The Empire will not allow such a creature to live freely. Then the Empire will have to go through all of us, said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Captain Yun Seo walking down the street with a group of armed colonists. She was the colony's military leader, a tough woman who had fought in several border conflicts. This colony is under human protection, Yun Seo announced. Any attempt to take our people will be considered an act of war. Behind her came more colonists, farmers, engineers, teachers, shopkeepers, people who had lived peacefully for years but were now ready to fight for their neighbor. But the most surprising arrival was Han Newell, a young engineer who worked at the spaceport. He walked straight to Nari and took her hand. I have been watching you for 2 years, he said quietly. I have seen you help everyone in this colony. I have seen your kindness and your intelligence. I do not care what frequencies your soul operates on. I care about who you are. Nari looked into his eyes and saw something she had never seen before. Acceptance, not just of her abilities, but of her as a person. The Empire will send more ships, Agent Kethfor warned. Bigger ships with better weapons. You cannot protect her forever. Maybe not, Taemin said, putting his arm around Nari's shoulders. But we will try, because that is what families do. They protect each other. Agent Kethfor looked around at the determined faces of the colonists. He had come expecting to collect a failed experiment. Instead, he had found a girl who could disable his technology with a thought, protected by humans who would die before giving her up. This is not over, he said finally. No, Nari replied, her voice calm but filled with new confidence. It is not. But next time you come, remember this. I am not your failed experiment. I am not your property. I am Nari Park, daughter of Taemin Park, citizen of New Busan Colony, and I am exactly who I was meant to be. The blue energy around her hands grew brighter for a moment, then faded, but everyone could feel that something had changed. The girl who had once believed she was a soulless mistake now knew the truth about herself. She was not broken. She was not empty. She was something completely new, something the galaxy had never seen before, and she was ready to show the universe what that meant. 2 weeks passed after Agent Kethfor left New Busan Colony. The colonists tried to return to their normal lives, but everyone knew the Valtharians would come back. They were preparing for war. Captain Yun Seo worked day and night to strengthen the colony's defenses. She knew their simple weapons could not match Valtharian technology, but she refused to give up without a fight. Nari spent those 2 weeks learning to control her new abilities. With Dr. Sunja's help, she discovered she could do much more than just control machines. She could sense electronic signals from across the star system. She could feel the thoughts of computers light years away. It is like having a conversation with the entire galaxy, Nari explained to her father as they sat in their garden. Every machine, every computer, every electronic device, they all have voices, and now I can hear them all. Taemin watched, his daughter with wonder and worry. Are you still happy here, or do you want to explore this new gift somewhere else? Nari smiled and took his hand. This is my home. These are my people. Whatever comes next, we face it together. On the morning of the 15th day, the sky above New Busan filled with ships. Not just one Valtharian vessel, but an entire battle fleet. 20 massive warships surrounded the small colony, their weapons pointed downward. A voice boomed across the settlement from speakers on the ships. This is Admiral Zerthak of the Valtharian Imperial Fleet. You are harboring stolen property that belongs to the Empire. Surrender the hybrid creature, or your colony will be destroyed. The colonists gathered in the main square. Fear was written on every face, but no one spoke of giving up Nari. In 2 weeks, she had become more than just their neighbor. She had become the symbol of everything they believed in. The right to choose your own path, regardless of what others expected from you. Elder Sang-wook stood before the crowd. His old voice carried clearly in the morning air. We have lived on this world for 15 years, he said. We came here to build something new, something better than what we left behind. We came here to prove that people should be judged by their actions, not by their birth or their race or what some machine says about them. The crowd murmured agreement. Mrs. Kim stepped forward. Nari fixed my shop's power system when no one else could. She taught my grandson how to grow vegetables in poor soil. She has never asked for anything in return. This is what souls do, they help others. Minho raised his voice from the crowd. She is my friend. She listens when I talk about my problems. She makes me laugh when I am sad. This is what souls do. They care about others. Hanul moved to stand beside Nari. She sees beauty in broken things and fixes them. She sees potential where others see only failure. This is what souls do. They create hope. One by one, every colonist shared a story about how Nari had helped them. The woman without a soul had touched more lives than anyone realized. Admiral Zerthak's voice echoed from the ships again. You have 1 hour to comply. After that, we will take the creature by force. Captain Yunseo activated the colony's communication system. Admiral, this is Captain Yunseo of New Busan Colony. We refuse your demand. This girl is under human protection. Then you have chosen to die for a failed experiment, the Admiral replied. No, Nari said, taking the microphone from Yunseo. They have chosen to live for what is right. She walked to the center of the square where everyone could see her. The blue energy that had appeared during her confrontation with Agent Kethvor began to flow around her again, but stronger this time. Admiral Zerthak, she called out, her voice carrying to the ships above. You say I am a failed experiment. But what if the experiment succeeded in ways you never intended? What do you mean, creature? You wanted to create the perfect combination of human and Valtherian traits. You succeeded. But you only looked for the traits you already understood. You never considered that perfection might look different than you expected. As Nari spoke, something amazing began to happen. Throughout the Valtherian fleet, computers started displaying error messages. Navigation systems began reporting false readings. Weapon targeting systems lost their ability to lock onto targets. What is happening to our ships? Admiral Zerthak demanded over the communication channel. I am showing you what I can do, Nari replied calmly. Every computer in your fleet is now listening to me instead of you. Every weapon system, every life support system, every engine. They all respond to my voice now. Dr. Sunja stepped beside Nari with her scanner. Admiral, you should see these readings. This girl's quantum signature is unlike anything we have ever recorded. She is not communicating with your computers through normal channels. She is speaking directly to their quantum cores. Impossible, came the Admiral's voice, but it sounded less certain now. 6 years ago, your scanners said I had no soul because they could not measure what I was, Nari continued. Today, your weapons cannot target me because they cannot understand what I am. Maybe the problem is not with me. Maybe the problem is with your understanding. Suddenly, new ships appeared in the sky. But these were not Valtherian vessels. They were human ships led by Captain Dong-hyun of the Earth Defense Force. Admiral Zerthak, Captain Dong-hyun's voice came over the communication system. You are in violation of the Colonial Protection Treaty. Withdraw your forces immediately. This does not concern Earth, Admiral Zerthak replied. We are retrieving stolen property. The girl is a human citizen, Dong-hyun responded firmly. Any attack on her is an attack on humanity. But Nari was not finished. She raised her hands toward the Valtherian fleet, and something extraordinary happened. Instead of disabling their ships, she began to repair them. Systems that had been malfunctioning for months suddenly worked perfectly. Engines that had been running inefficiently began to purr smoothly. What are you doing? Admiral Zerthak asked, in confusion. I am showing you what souls really do, Nari said. Souls do not destroy. Souls create. Souls heal. Souls bring different people together and help them understand each other. As she spoke, her voice was somehow transmitted directly into the minds of every Valtherian in the fleet. For the first time, they could feel what she felt. They could sense her compassion, her love for her adoptive family, her desire to help others. Many of the Valtherian soldiers had never experienced emotions like these before. Their society had taught them that worth was measured by soul energy readings, not by actions or feelings. You feel it now, don't you? Nari asked gently. You feel what it means to care about someone not because of what they can do for you, but simply because they exist. This is what humans call love. This is what makes a soul strong. Agent Kethavor's voice came over the communication system from one of the ships. Admiral, the other hybrid experiments in our laboratories, they are responding to this creature's quantum signature. They are awakening. What do you mean awakening? The Admiral demanded. They are developing the same abilities. They are asking questions about their purpose. They are refusing to follow orders. Nari smiled. You created dozens of hybrids like me, didn't you? You thought they were all failures because your machines could not measure their souls. But they were just sleeping, waiting for someone to show them what they could become. Across Valtharian space, hybrid experiments were breaking free from their laboratories. They were not violent or destructive. Instead, they were helping others, just as Nari had done on New Busan. Admiral Zerthak realized that his entire understanding of the universe was changing. The creatures they had called failures were proving to be the most advanced beings they had ever encountered. What do you want from us? He asked finally. Nothing, Nari replied. I want to give you something. I want to show you that souls cannot be measured by machines. Souls are measured by the love they create, the help they give, and the hope they inspire in others. Taemin stepped forward and put his arm around his daughter's shoulders. 3 years ago you told me she was worthless because she had no soul. Today she has shown soul power that your best scientists cannot understand. Maybe it is time to learn from her instead of trying to control her. Admiral Zerthak was quiet for a long moment. Finally he spoke. The Empire will need time to understand what has happened here today. We will withdraw our forces. But this matter is not finished. No, Nari agreed. It is not finished, it is just beginning. The galaxy is about to discover that souls come in many forms, and the most powerful ones are often the ones you cannot measure. As the Valtharian fleet departed, the colonists cheered. But Nari knew this was not really an ending. It was the start of something much bigger. She had been born without a soul, according to the Valtharians. But she had found something better than a soul. She had found a family who loved her, a community that accepted her, and a purpose that would change the galaxy forever. She was no longer the failed experiment Subject 17. She was Nari Park, daughter of humanity, and she was exactly who she was meant to be.